The United Arab Emirates, which has turned into a hawkish state in recent years, has adopted a new controversial stance on regional issues. The stance is seen by countries other than the UAE's Saudi ally as divisive. The UAE's Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Anwar Gargash, has said on Twitter, "The Arab world needs to come together under Saudi-Egyptian leadership to push back against Iran and Turkey." Gargash said, quote, "The Arab world is at an impasse, and the solution is to cooperate in the face of surrounding regional ambitions. The sectarian and partisan approach is not an acceptable alternative. The Arab world will not be led by Tehran and Ankara," unquote.
I think that the angle here is that what basically the person is trying to say is to make the case against Iran and Turkey, because those two countries, we have to remember, have actually positioned themselves against Jerusalem becoming the capital of Israel. And I think that right now, whenever we speak politics or geopolitics, it always go back to the elephant in the room, which is Israel. And I think that the argument is that if the region was, for example, to follow Saudi Arabia and Egypt, one being a secular republic, or at least a wannabe secular republic, the other being a theocracy, we would essentially fall within the fold of Greater Israel. And the argument would be that the world and the region would be much safer and would be a better place for everybody.
The UAE's call for unity under the Saudis comes at a time of intensified tensions between the two Arab states on the one hand, on another Persian Gulf Arab country, Qatar. One reason behind the Saudis' anger with Qatar is Doha has maintained its normal relations with Tehran, despite calls by Riyadh to restrict those relations. Turkey's warming ties with Iran and its support for Qatar in its dispute with the Saudi-led alliance of Arab states have further compounded the issue.
If there's an impasse, it's simply because you have some kind of a colonial power. Some of them are being promoted by the likes of Wahhabism, who are attempting to impose their reality onto the region, and the region is fighting back. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't think there's an impasse, but so much as a struggle in between, I would say, the free folk, who are still the kind of message carried by Iran, for example, and those who are trying to oppress. So it's very much a case of the oppressor, versus the oppressee, and the oppressee are not taking too lightly to being oppressed, and they are fighting back.
Roughly a week ago, the UAE Foreign Minister Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan slandered Turks and Ottomans. Later, another Emirati official took to Twitter to attack Turkey. Dhani Khalfan Tamim, the Deputy Chief of Police and Public Security for the Emirate of Dubai, describing Turkey under President Erdogan as evil. He said Turkey and Qatar are part of a secret organization that is bent on harming the UAE and Saudi Arabia. But some analysts believe the Saudis and the Emiratis are targeting Turkey in order to divert attention from their tacit support for the U.S. recognition of Jerusalem Al-Quds as Israel's capital.
This is more to do with promoting Israel from under the table by trying to weave certain types of narrative, rather than actually making a point about Islam, or even making a political point. Because I don't see how following Saudi Arabia and Turkey, or Egypt, would be better than following Iran or Turkey. It's up to the people to decide what agenda or whose country they want to fall behind when it comes to promoting stability.
The UAE is seen as Saudi Arabia's stooge and its accomplice in the war on Yemen that has been described as futile and absurd by the United Nations. The two have failed to win the conflict in Yemen, which is now a war of attrition, and Saudi Arabia has already lost in Syria, where it insisted on the overthrow of President Bashar al-Assad. The Saudis' support for Assad's enemies has spawned a plethora of terror groups across the Middle East, which not only threaten the region, but their actions have also spilt over to other parts of the world. The Saudi regime, along with the UAE, has also been accused of trying to make the Palestinian issue slip into oblivion as part of its alliance with the Israeli regime.